Hi, class. So I'm going to do a demo for assignment 2.7, electronic schematic. And this assignment is going to be a two-page submission. So it's this first page here with the schematic, and then the second page has the electronic symbols. And so we are going to create these symbols using blocks, and then you are going to dimension and label those symbols. And then you're going to take those blocks and put them in a schematic like so, and you will label it like this as well. And so we're also going to use batch plot to create our PDF file. And this third page here, you don't actually have to submit this, but this is just to help you know how to create some of those symbols. Okay, so I've actually already taken screenshots of those pages and I put them into AutoCAD, into my template file of AutoCAD. So I have my title block here, my layers, etc. All right, so I'm going to begin by drawing this general resistor. Okay, and so I have my assignment open in my other screen as well, but I pasted it here also. All right, so I see that the overall length is 2.25, and I'm in my geometry layer. I have ortho mode on, and so now I have this line that is perfectly straight, and I could just put 2.25. All right, and actually I'm going to change this to the construction layer because that's my overall length. And then that first part of the line is 0.375 units. And then it goes up. It has these, it's made up of these like peaks and troughs. So it has this triangle and they're 0.5 in width and 0.5 in height. So I'll go ahead and make that shape. There's a couple different ways I could do it. I'll go ahead and do polygon. I'll say number of sides is 3. And I'm going to say edge. And I'll click this point of the edge, and then the other edge is going to be 0.5 units. And so that should already be the right height. So it should be 0.5. Oh no, actually, the height won't be 0.5 because the length of the sides will be 0.5. So yeah, it's a little bit different actually. It's this length that is 0.5. So I'm not going to do it that way. Instead, I'm going to create a box, say 0.5. It doesn't have to be a whole box, and then 0.5. Then I'll do polyline, and I'm going to go to this midpoint. So I'm going to try to find both of these tracking vectors, or tracking, here we go, lines. Let's try that again. There we go, now I see it. And I could connect it like so. And I'll just delete this other one. I was just using that as a guide. Okay. And looks like I have 1, 2, 3 peaks. So I'll take this and I'll copy it. And then I'll move it right here. I'm going to take this. It should be the same distance on the other side. So I'll mirror it just to make sure that it is actually the same. And make sure I'm mirroring about this midpoint of that line. There you go. And I'll turn back on ortho mode. No, I don't want to erase it. And I'll copy this one time over here. Here we go. And now I could just trim the extra line work. So I'll trim here. And I'll take all that and I will join it. Oops, let me undo that. I'll delete this one first and then I'll join it. Okay, now I have my general resistor. And I can dimension this now, or I can do it all at the end. I'll go ahead and dimension this one out and then I'll do the rest at the end. So I'll go to and actually if I go to my third page, I can see that my dimension height should be 0.18 and my text height should be 0.25. So let me check my dimension height. I did use my template file and I believe that's what my dimension height was, but I'll go ahead and double check it. 0.18, okay, good. And then I'll just do the command text size to change my text height to 0.25. There we go. Okay, so I'll go ahead and dimension this. Oh, but actually I'll go ahead and show you first. I need to change a couple of the things for my dimension style as well. Okay, so, oops. Here, actually, I'll go ahead and do it all at the end. Let me change this again since I am changing this to blue. Since I changed my background to white. Yeah, go ahead and finish dimensioning it first. So here we go. And one more here. Okay. And I'm going to grab every dimension and I'm going to put this on the dimension layer once again. And now I'm going to go ahead and change my dim style. So I'll modify this and I'm going to make it 2 decimal places because the majority of my dimensions are 2 decimal places. And then if you notice, actually, the 0 is suppressed in the assignment. So I can go here to, it's in primary units, and right here it says 0 suppression, and I'm going to go ahead and suppress the leading 0. Okay, and I'll close that. All right, so now my dimensions have changed, but this one actually should be 3 decimal places. So that one is different than the rest. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to change the properties for this one individually. Since it doesn't happen very often, I could just change it on its own instead of creating a whole new dimension style. There we go. So I changed the precision under primary units to 3 decimal places. And now I can just kind of adjust these. I don't want the text to overlap. Okay, I'm going to close this. And then I'll add my text that says general resistor. And I'll put that on the text layer. And here we go. So now I have my general resistor done, and I'm going to work on now the PNP transistor. So I'm just going to copy this over so that way I have it at, I'll turn on ortho mode. So that way I have it at the same, kind of on the same plane as the one before. And then I'll put in 10 units to the right. Okay, and so this is going to change to PNP transistor. And I'll go ahead and start drawing my transistor here. All right, so I have an overall length of 2 units, and then this circle has a radius of 0.75. So I'll start with those. And then let me see this overall length again really quick. I'm going to go into options. I just want to change my crosshair size to 100. Okay, so this is lined up. So from this end of the circle over is going to be 2 units. All right, and I can change this to a construction line. And I'm going to go ahead and create another construction line. Actually, it doesn't have to be a construction line. I'll just create a line that's 1 unit in length, vertical. I'm going to move this to the center of that circle. And then I'll move it over 0.25 units. And of course, there's many ways to do the same thing in AutoCAD, so you might choose a different way to create this line. All right, and so now I just have to add these lines. And I have this one here. So it ends 0.5 down and it's 1 unit over to the right. So, and where does it start? It starts 0.25 down. Okay. So I'm going to go into my line tool. I'm going to hover over this and then I'm going to start tracking in this direction. And I'm going to say 0.25. So that's going to start my first point, 0.25 units away from the center here, from where I started tracking from. And then I'm going to do at, let's see, the x is 1, and then the y is negative 0.5. There we go. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to mirror it about the center. Okay, so now I just have to create this arrow here. Let me see how to do that. Okay, so it's saying to offset a line 0.3 inches to the right of the vertical line. All right, here's my vertical line. I'm going to offset it 0.38 inches to the right. And then I need to use polyline to draw the arrow. So use P line to draw an arrow from the intersection of A to B. All right. And I'm going to have the start point be this intersection point right here. And then I'm going to specify the width. Okay. So polyline from the intersection of A to B. And then I'm going to choose W for width. And then the starting width was 0.2. And the ending width is 0. So the starting width of that line is 0.2 and the ending is 0.0. And this should have been the other way around. Let me try that one more time. All right, so is this an endpoint or is this the start point? It should be, I do have a line here. Let me delete this one and try that again. Okay, so starting here and now I'll specify the width and I'll specify the start point or the starting width as, so before I clicked on the intersection here, now I did W and then now I'm going to specify the starting width. So 0.2. Ending is 0. Here we go. So now I can go ahead and select this as my endpoint. And then I'll escape. Okay, there we go. And now I will erase this. Looks good. And so actually I drew this one here. I'm going to mirror it so I could get this one. So first I will take this, I'll delete that extra line. I'll join it and I will copy it. That's fine. And then I'm going to take this, because my arrow is up on this one, I'm going to mirror it twice. So first, I'll do MI for mirror. About this line, yes, this time I do want to erase the source object, and then now I want to take this, and I want to, you could say either mirror or rotate it. So I'll go ahead and I'll mirror it. Let's see if I can get to be perpendicular. Instead, let me think. I can rotate it. See, but is that the midpoint of that line? It looks like the midpoint's more up here. So it could have been snapping to the wrong midpoint. There we go. And I want to rotate it 180 degrees. Actually, I'm just now realizing that it's that whole line that needs to be flipped. So let me undo that. So this arrow should be it should be flipped and it should be touching this one right here. And it's also the same distance. So I could, so that distance was right here. So I can actually just mirror this about this line. But that doesn't look quite right. Let me see why. I'll offset this again. I see, because the distance from here to here is not the same as that from here to here. Okay, so this triangle is a little bit larger than this one. All right, yep, sometimes it takes a little bit of, figuring it out. If you see something that doesn't look quite right, it probably isn't. All right, so now we have the PNP transistor right here. I'll go ahead and dimension that after. I'm going to move on to the capacitor. So I'll take this and I'll copy it over and I'll move it over 10 units. And then I'm going to create this one here. Let's just start here and I'll say, I'll move this to the construction layer really quick so I don't get confused. That's 1 unit. And I have a line coming from the midpoint that's 0.5. Then I'm going to draw a construction line here that's 0.25. And then I have another line that is 0.5. All right, and then I have to create an arc. So the arc, let's see, ends 0.5 away. I could mirror that. And then now I'll go ahead and create an arc. So I'll say 3 point. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And this might not be the best way to create this one. Um, so do, whatever comes to mind for you first. All right, and then now take all of these and actually before I do that, when I make my dimensions, it looks like I'm gonna have to create a little bit of more space, so I'll move these down. And then I'm gonna copy all of these down. This one will be NPN transistor. This one capacitor. There we go. This one's a connector jack that I'm going to create. And so I'll do a construction line of 1. It looks like those were the same. Oh, they're different line types. That's why it did not erase the other one. So I'm going to highlight both. I'm going to hit select and then now I have just the background one highlighted. Okay. So now I actually have I'm going to explode this and then I'm going to copy this over here because I have this Y shape and it's once again 0.5 and 0.5 units in width and then 0.5 in height. So I'll rotate this. And then I'm going to move this to the midpoint of this 0.1 line and say 0.5. There we go. So that's my connector jack. And then I have a ground chassis right here. So I'll start here. I'll adjust it after. And then see the overall height is 0.1. Actually, I'm just going to delete this one and then I'll hover over here to line it up. So this is 1. From the midpoint is 0.1. And then the height is from here to here is 1. And so just from here down is 0.5. So knowing that, I can create a line using the at symbol and then negative 0.5 in the x direction and negative 0.5 in the y. And then I could copy this. And there I have my ground chassis. So I'll join this, join this, join this, just join everything that I can. I exploded that, so I'm going to join it once again. And I'm going to create my blocks. So this one, I'm going to do the block command by pressing B and then spacebar, and I'm going to name it ground resistor. And I'll choose a pick point right there and say OK. And then here, and actually, I guess I could have and should have, I should put these all on the 0 layer and then copy them using the, copy them onto the geometry layer. So I'll go ahead and explode this. And it won't really make a difference in this assignment, to be honest. But just for practice, I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to, once again, make this into a block. I'm going to name it the same thing, general resistor. And it's going to ask me now if I want to override. Well, I guess it didn't ask me. Let me see, because I may have named it something else before. Oh, I named it ground resistor before. Okay. So, because I have that unnecessary resistor, I want to show you guys how to purge. So, I have a block right now that I know I'm not going to use. I don't need it. And so I went to Drawing Utilities under this application menu. And then here I have Purge. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to have, I already have it checked actually, but sometimes all of them will be checked or none of them. So just check what you need. Or you can check everything depending on what you're doing. But I'm just going to check the blocks and I'm going to say Purge checked items. Purge all checked items. So all of the blocks that I'm not using will then be deleted. So I close this and make sure my title block is still there. And now I have my general resistor and I have my title block. And it looks like I have 2 of those, so just kind of wanted to see. Okay, well, they're the same, but I must have named them different. I'm not sure why they're both in here. Are they overlapping? No. Oh well. So I purged that. I named it ground resistor, and now this one, it's on the geometry layer. And then this line work now is on the 0 layer, but because I'm on the geometry layer right now and I'm going to create a block, once I create it, it's going to move it to the geometry layer. So PNP transistor. There we go. Just going to move this over a little bit to be lined up with my words better. B for block, and then I'm going to name this capacitor. I'll choose this as my pick point and say OK. Ground, chassis, B for block, connector, jack, and NPN transistor. Okay. And I'll go ahead and rename these as well. Ground chassis, connector, jack. And then I want to dimension these, so go up here and I'm going to dimension it like how I see it in my assignment. And let me move to the dimension layer so I don't have to keep moving things over manually. Okay, so dim command, and let's see. And I have one right there. I'm just going to continue to dimension this until I have it fully defined. So this is to the center of the circle or to this line. I'm going to do it to the center of the circle. And then once again, I'm in the dim command. And see, if I select here, it's trying to give me the diameter, but I actually want it to be a radius. But if you look at the bottom in the command line, I can change it to radius by selecting R. And now I can do it that way. I'm just going to adjust these a little bit. So I'll put that in there. Move this to this side so it's not as crowded. And then I'm going to put this right there at the end point. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to dimension here. want this to be in the middle. All right. Uh-oh, and so these are not exact. So I'm not sure why. Let me edit this block. Let me say we want our drawing to be perfect. I'm just gonna make sure I don't have my, okay, that's off. All right, so these are all connecting nicely, so I know the endpoints are connected. So I'm gonna save that. That looks a lot better. And then when I put in my dimensions, it should show up correctly as well. So let's double check that here. All right, now I'm gonna move on to dimension this connector jack. And as you continue to work on your drawings, just know that you will become faster and more efficient. It takes practice just like anything else, right? So you might not be very fast or efficient initially, but you will get there the more that you work on AutoCAD in your drawings. So make sure you're practicing so that way you become efficient and it will become much easier and faster for you. And there might be some times when you still have to stop and think about um, how you need to do things, just like I did earlier with this arrow one on the other side. But it does get easier with practice, and then, it takes a little bit of a problem solving sometimes to get to the final result. So I'm just going to move these up a little bit. And I do like my dimensions to be perfectly aligned. And when they're when you're dimensioning the same object, you do for sure want them perfectly aligned. But even though these are different objects, I'm going to make sure they are aligned as well. So I'm clicking on this one, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on this one up here to align it. And these are all pretty similar, but they could be perfect. There we go, that's fine. And then I'm going to save this. So I will save it in the appropriate folder. All right, and make sure you guys are using the convention for saving, put the assignment number and then your initials, underscore and then your initials. I'm just naming it demo since I am demonstrating this. Okay, and so now I have my components and I need to arrange them into a schematic similar to this one. So I will take my connector jack. I'm just going to copy it. I'll put it over here. Actually, I'll put it over on this side first. And then I'll copy that one. I'll bring it up here and then I'll mirror both of these about like so. All right, and so we don't know the distances between these resistors, for example, right? But you don't need to as long as it looks similar because this is a schematic. Um, when you're talking about like electric circuits, it doesn't actually matter how, when you're creating a schematic like this, it doesn't matter what that distance is between it. This line is just a representation of how they're connected. Okay, so I have my connector jack there. And now I'm going to attach a capacitor to it. So, oops, I did circle. I meant to do copy. So move that over and then I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to move it. Oops, I want to grab the end point. And then I have me one of these. So I'll copy this. And I'll put a little bit of space between here. So I'll move this over. Just going to make up a distance. I'll say, I'll move it over 1 unit. And then I'll put a line in here of 1. And I want to make sure that this is on the geometry layer and that my blocks are on the geometry layer, because if they're not, then they're going to be different line weights when I print it. Okay. So I'll say 1 for this one as well, and 1 in that direction also. And I'm going to grab a resistor, copy that over. Oops, rotate this. And then move it. And then I'll copy this one over. And I'm going to align it with the endpoint there. And I'll connect it. And then from here, I have another transistor. So I'll just say 1 again. Copy that to there and then create a line lined up with this. Okay, so now I just created another line here and I'm gonna go back here a little bit. I'm gonna copy this over. And line it up. I'll say 1. I'm going to move this. And I'm just going to keep drawing this so that it looks like the one that I have in my assignment. So 1, and then I'll grab this, and then just a heads up that it might be easier for you actually to follow along by looking at the drawing than it is to watch the video. It really depends on how you learn, but also you're just kind of making this look like this above here. So if you're looking at it, it makes it a lot easier. I have it here on my other screen, which is making it pretty easy for me to draw this. All right, and then I'll create a line from that midpoint down. And let's see how I want to connect these. So I have a different transistor over here and this other kind. So I'm going to copy that. I'll copy both of these and put it there. And let's see, I'll go from here to here. I'll do 1 unit. And then I have a couple capacitors over on this side. So I can line it up here if I want to. That's fine. And then I will mirror this so that it's upside down. And no, I don't want to erase the source because I need that too. And then I'll move this. And I might need to move this down a little bit as well. That might be too crowded, so I'm going to move it 0.5 back up. So I did 1 unit and then I did 0.5 back up. Here we go, and then 1. I'm going to do 1 more. Then I'm going to grab a ground chassis, copy that. And this is gonna go down this way. And I will mirror this over so that way I can grab this capacitor. Okay. So I'll just move this over here. I'm going to copy that, line it up with this one up top. And then with this one on the bottom. We're getting there. So I'm going to say 1 unit, and then I'll put another resistor there. And then I have another ground chassis. Okay. Oops. All right, so I'm just double checking to make sure I have all of my components. All right, so that looks good. I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna join, and then I'm not quite done. I need to create those little nodes. And so I can, and then like a half circle type thing right over here. So I can just take a circle and create it that way. I can also do this donut command, and it will create a circle that is filled. So I can specify the inside diameter of the donut to be 0, and the outside diameter, I'm not really sure, maybe I'll just try 0.1. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and place those. I'll place it here for now, but I do have to open it. And I'm going to place those everywhere where I see the little connector node on my schematic. All right. And so here, I'll go ahead and create a circle, and let's see, can I snap to the edge? Maybe not. So I'll just do a radius of 0.1 also. So actually, that's not quite right. Let me see this. Can I trim a donut? I don't even know. Let me see. I can, but it's not trimming the way I want it to. Oh, so the diameter is 0.1. So I'll get rid of that one. And I'll just delete this one and then I'll do a diameter circle. 0.1. I'm going to copy this over. Oops, I deleted the wrong one. That's okay. I'll move this one over instead. And then I'm going to trim away the excess. So I don't need these or these. I'll join that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some labels on this. So I will go to my text and I'll create a label right here. R2 for resistor, 1.8 K, that's going to be kilo ohms. We just have the K there. And then I will copy this. I'll move it a little bit closer, just slightly. And then I'll copy this and place it near my other resistors. I'm going to mirror this to the other side because it's too close to that transistor. All right, so I'm going to change the value of this one. Q1. Oops. I accidentally pressed escape. Q1. And then 2N 3053. And I'll change these texts to while I'm at it. 156K. R5 2.2K. R4 100K. And let's see, 1.33. Q to 40408. And I'm going to copy this and put it like right there. So I could do V in, and I'm going to make this in into a subscript. So my text editor popped up and I can choose this little subscript button right here. And it looks like that should be capital IN, so IN. So Q4 2N 3055. And this one, I'm going to change the justification to be middle center. Then I'll do R6 47.2. Okay. I'll put this one on the other side because it is running into the one up top. Forty-seven point two K. And C4.01. C3 1.0. 1.0. And we need one for down here. MJ490. see. Let's say plus 36 VDC. And I'm going to copy this. Oops. G and D for ground. I'm just going to double check something really quick. Okay. Just checking my values, make sure they match. All right. And now actually, I kind of want this to be a little bit larger, like how I had it previously. So I am going to do a radius of 0.1. Let me move this to the geometry. And I'll trim the rest away because it's a little bit hard to see with it being so small. I'll just copy this over to this side too. And I'm going to join all that. All right, and so now I have my symbols completed and my schematic completed. And now I want to put those into my layout. So I'm going to take this, I will create a copy. I'll say okay. And I'm going to rename these. So I'm going to name this one electronic schematic. And I'll rename this one electronic symbols. There we go. So in this one, I'll double click into my viewport and then I'm going to find my electronic schematic. Here we go. And if you notice on the assignment it says NTS for the scale, that means not to scale. So you don't have to make it a nice round number like we normally do. I do like to have it be a nice round number, and so I could just go like that, but it doesn't need to be because we aren't stating what the scale is. Okay, so I will go ahead and lock that. And then I'm going to double click into my title block and I'm going to rename it. So electronic schematic. And then here for scale, I'm going to put NTS, not to scale. And this is page 1 of 2. Then I'll go into here. I'm going to double click my viewport. I'm going to double click with my scroll wheel to find my drawing. And then I can, actually, I think I'm going to make these a little bit closer together with a 2.5. Then I'll say 5. Okay. And I'm going to center this a little bit nicer. Let's see here. I have a lot of snaps on. I'll just snap it to right there. Maybe I'll move it over slightly, actually. And then I can move these up as well. Okay, so now let me go ahead and look at my symbols. Okay, that looks good. And actually, I'll go ahead and do it in here. I'll move these up even further so that way I can get it in there nicely. Okay, I'm going to lock that one and then I'm going to populate this title block once again. So electronic symbols. Scale, I'm going to say NTS. And then this is page 2 of 2. All right. I'm going to save that. And I'll go ahead and preview these pages separately. Okay, that looks good. And that also looks good to me. Okay, so now I can go up here to my big A and I can go to batch plot. So I want to do batch plot because I have two pages that I want to plot to one PDF. So I'm going to select batch plot, and that's going to put in automatically all the sheets that are open right now. And it also has a sheet of the model space. So I don't need to print that one. So I'm going to do the minus sign to remove that sheet. I'm going to make sure it says publish to PDF. It might say plotter named in page setup, so change that to PDF so that way it prints to one. And then I'll go ahead and choose my location, and it's already where I want to go, so that's good. And I'll say OK, and then I'm going to publish that. Okay, and so now it's telling me my printing and or publishing job is processing in the background. I'll go ahead and close this. I don't need to see that every time. And if I look down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's this little printer and it's moving. So that is because it is in the process of printing. And so now the job is complete. I could close this and I could go to my folder and I can open this up and I'll see it right here. Here we go. So this is my first page and my second page. All right, and so you're going to go ahead and work on this assignment and you will submit this PDF file that has your 2 pages. All right, thank you.